What's up, people? This is your boy Gerald. It is Thursday, the 4th of October. No, correction, 4th of November, 2021. How is everybody doing? Now, I know on my last video, I kind of startled some folks because they said, well, I never saw you with such a different demeanor. It was very abrasive. Why or what was that spawning? There had to be something underlining that caused you, because that's not your character. But you notice the operative word is character. As you decide to make the choices that you do before you set forth to go outside the door into uncharted, uh, an uncharted day, more or less, we naturally have a sense of comfort or false security because we dictate the environment. The things that we do not like, we tend to socially ostracize because it is easier to deflect, denounce, ignore than to be still and acknowledge what is being offered. So what do you mean be still and be offered? I don't get it. If I don't want drama, I'm going to do everything in my power to get away with it, to get away from it. Okay. But what if I told you when conflict arises, there's also a reward called wisdom? Who am I talking to? So in 2021, we've been energized, or there's been a call to arms, per se, to talk about the relationship dynamic. And on one aspect, I am truly grateful. But for some of you that already know, I've been talking about this since 2011. I've been praying on this way before that. The sense of understanding, to establish dialogue, to be able to find comfort in your discomfort. But see, through society, the social narrative, we have been indoctrinated or attempted to be convinced that sometimes the distraction is better than the truth. Who am I talking to? And for that being said, that has caused a false narrative, a major paradigm shift that impacts not only physically, economically, but emotionally, causing those to be divided. I remember there was a time you would hear your elders always say, or the person of influence in your life, they would always convey to speak the truth. Always from a spiritual standpoint. But there was an underlying reason why that was conveyed through the beginnings of time. Because truth will set you free. We can agree upon that. But what you don't hear a lot of people discuss, that there's a price for the truth. There's a requirement that requires truth to be revealed. And does it surprise you now, more than ever, there is a demographic of people that don't look like you, that look like you in a town near you, in a city near you, in a state near you, or worldwide, that hope that you don't. Who am I talking to? Well, Gerald, sometimes it's easy not to rock the boat, but it's also harder to keep it afloat. Who am I talking to? So they romanticize the illusion until the bill comes, until the demand is so high that proverbially pressure breaks the pipe. Isn't the same thing when it comes to truth? Why is it? I'm just going to caveat from this right now. Because everything that I convey from you comes from spirit out my mouth. Nothing's wrong. Don't have to because it's truth. It's my truth. And guess what? You're entitled to cut this off. You're entitled to not agree. But the only requirement that I ask is the things that are within difference, educate me. Because when you educate someone, guess what happens? You guide them to the truth. You reset the wrongs. You make sure that whatever unseen or unknown parables that have led that person astray is corrected. It's kind of like one of the purest forms of unconditional love. But why is it in 2021 we're so afraid of it? Now, me, I'm not. And I'm not saying that with any ego. I don't walk in ego. I walk unconditionally guided by Spirit, the Most High. And I know that the purpose that was placed on my spirit, I've been doing it for almost a decade now. Because I know that the words that come from my heart, navigated from my mind by way of my spirit, out my mouth, will resonate to an octave, to a point that the intended heart, intended mind, they'll receive it. Not everything is for everybody. And that's okay. Because if that was the case, your journey, your story, would be the same as mine. There would not be a need to understand what the term commonality is all about. So we can also agree that we attract what we are. But here's the thing about that. There's that beautiful word called change. You don't need anyone's permission to change. You don't need anyone's validation to do it. That is a decision that is found only within the spirit or the essence of who you are. Spiritually, not physically. Because before you were of physical form, you were a spirit first. Because guess what? It took 9 months to create what was deemed perfect. Well, guess what? While that was going on, that flicker to the flame called you existed. Let that sit in. That is why you may have heard in your early dating, and usually in the early ages of school, or what I call mimicking, because we learn by mimicking the influence, good or bad. Who am I talking to? But you heard this. If something was ever to happen to me, would you still love me? Or here's the big one. If I lost what I physically looked like, would you stand by my side? That question always permeates in the psyche or the mentality of the union. Because what requires is for you to finally be real, to unconditionally choose to be authentic. So when you hear the term character, don't you automatically think role? So who are you today? Does the person that you embrace today match up with the person you are within yesterday? And if not, why? So now, as I mentioned, because I get it, some of you have reasons why you gravitate to my channel, and I appreciate it. Don't ever think that I don't appreciate your presence, because you could have taken your time, which is priceless, and took it somewhere else. In the World Wide Web, you could be living in Toledo, Ohio, but be watching something that's going on in Bangladesh if you choose to. So there's no words that I can ever fathom to show appreciation. But I do hope that what is conveyed, if it resonates, embrace it. Because see, at the end of the day, family, you have one life. And with that, that will birth one legacy. But to birth that said legacy requires you to also understand what makes your story. What makes you, you. The ups, the downs, the highs and lows are all the things that define the makings of you. If you've never heard that song, that was written by legendary R&B artist, songwriter Curtis Mayfield back in the early 70s. Legendary artist Gladys Knight. She sang that song for the motion picture Claudine. And even though that was not really deemed as a black exploitation, but the content of what the struggles that the actress Diana Carroll played still resonates to this day. The struggles and strives that a lot of single moms have to endure and choices that are made resonate from the film. If you've never seen that movie, I highly recommend. You can go on, there's so many avenues to pull it up. You can actually pull it up on YouTube if you like. But I highly, when you don't have anything going on, put on the movie Claudine and just watch. And I guarantee you're going to see things and things that were discussed in the dialogue that you're going to say, you know what, I didn't seen that before. Or, depending on how the paradigm impacts you, you may say, you know what, I see my younger self. I see my siblings. I see my mom. I see my dad. I see the impact of the economic display. Classic movie. One of many classics that were done at that time. Diana Carroll and James Earl Jones played the lead characters in that movie. Can't highly, look, classic. So, fast forward 2021. On one aspect, you have technology. On the other aspect, there's you. Now, how you decide to embrace technology will also impact the perception and the perspective of how your life is displayed. Now, that can be a good thing or a not so good thing, because at a minimum you must have a foundation of understanding before you can embrace something that is really nothing but an additive. No different than someone painting a mosaic picture and that picture is a representation of you and your image, and they're adding another texture, another color, another contrast. Those are the events, those are the high notes, those are the accents that display your life story. But sadly, we live because we only have no man nor woman knows the time or moment that they're going to take their last breath. And that time is very, very easy for us to become sedimentary in the direction, especially if we've been hurt or there is pre existing trauma that has taken place or been rooted in your psyche from a young age. This is very common. But but the one thing about that is this. If you understand what pain is, if you have befriended disappointment, if you have aligned yourself with depression, I highly ask to the person that's hearing my voice, love yourself more. But to truly love yourself more, you must acknowledge what does not work. I will say this. I remember when jazz pianist Robert Glasper, if you've never heard any of his work, he got a Grammy a couple years ago for the Black Radio um, album. Got a Grammy for it, and then it was such a it was such a excellent album. He made a sequel to it, and he enlisted various various singers that um, would sing on his music, and from Stokely Carmichael to Erica Badu to Josh Stone. The list is endless, and their contribution, Bilal was on there, that they brought to that project, got him a Grammy. It was monumental. If you never heard that album, go up in your search engine, put Robert Glasper, Black Radio. It is definitely one of those albums that once you hit play, you're going to listen to it all the way through. But because technology and advancement and the vision of society has always been progressive, unfortunately, there are those that do not um, have the same drive and tenacity to go along. So, which means that, unfortunately, some people get stuck. They hit a sticking point. And if they're not careful, time waits for no one, passes. And usually it's because your emotions have called. So what do you mean your emotions called? You've gone through something that have caused you to stop still. And life as you know it, the day before is not the perspective of what you are in real time. I coined that your emotional storm. But the caveat with that, or the kicker with that, is this. The longer it takes for you to understand why you feel what you feel, why you see what you see, why you're attracted to what you're attracted to, will dictate how long that is a reality. Who am I talking to? Now, let me segue, because you might be going through a process of bereavement. You're grieving because of a loss. Maybe because someone of significance in your life has transitioned. or the person that has gained access to you is no longer there by choices made. Who am I talking to? Number one, the sooner that you make a decision to acknowledge your pain, the sooner you'll be one step closer to finding your smile again. I'm gonna let you resonate on what I just said. Because see, the people in the cheap seats that want to convince you, nah, don't embrace your emotions. Nah, you can't make me cry. Oh, I would be weak if I shed a tear. Those are the same people which you don't realize are dying slow from the inside out. It's no different than someone having a internal hemorrhage and not seeking attention. Well, guess what? Eventually, you run out. Eventually, you break down. Eventually, you make a decision that cannot be unchanged. So that is why you must allow yourself to look at life logically. So what do you mean, Gerald? I mean, I, I, I had this friendship and it was all good yesterday, but now they're gone as if we never even heard each other's names. I need my friend back. I need my boyfriend back. I need my girlfriend back. I need my wife. I need my husband. What happened? You know what happened? At that very moment, the focal point shifted from them back to you. Now, in the midst of that, this is a very special moment because this is, to some, they may call that your proverbial rock bottom. But even if that is the case, and I've echoed this countless times, if you're at that breaking point, guess what? All you got to do is get up. The song that I'm thinking about right now, which would make a great analogy, was done by R&B artist, neo soul queen, Miss Erykah Badu, and she did a song called 40 Feet Tall. And go right up there. When you get a chance, listen to what she's singing about. Because she's talking about your self esteem, she's talking about your self worth and value. She's talking about the impact on your life. But what she's not talking about is, I'm going to get some revenge. I'm going to get some get right. I'm going to, how some will use this analogy, to get over someone, you got to get under somebody else. Let me tell you something, family. That is the worst thing you can do. So what do you mean, Gerald? That's attention. The other side of my bed is cold. I need that template there. But what you'll come to find out, love does not live there. That is why a lot of times you will see situations where a person that is going through transition from one involvement to the next, they will speed up the process to make up what is not there physically because they're living in the cemetery of life. They're living in the memories of disappointment. But in actuality, that is a blessing in disguise. You say, well, how the hell is that a blessing in disguise when every day I put a mask on my face to step out into the world and I do my due diligence to make my paycheck only to get in my car? Who am I talking to? You do everything you got to do. You actually the most exuberant person in your office, in your work system, in your work center, in your work environment. But soon as you get behind that steering wheel, it takes 30 minutes to fix your face because you are an emotional wreck. Who am I talking to? Family, I done been there. Ain't nothing worse to love someone so much that you forget to love yourself. Who am I talking to? Who can relate to that? Your focus is on them so much that you think that that is going to give calm in your home. I'm going to go the extra mile. I'm going to do everything that they want me to do. But they don't have the ability to give you the common decency to have a conversation that is authentic to tell you what they need. Who am I talking to? I'm talking to you, ain't I? But I will say this, because I don't take a person's emotional state lightly. You're looking at a man that's suffered in silence with depression for over 20 years. I was so depressed and learned how to compartmentalize my economics that I lost my smile. I can even say to the point that I was going through life financially on autopilot. But it didn't start to get real for me until I started hearing more people, even on social media, using Facebook. Why you don't smile? I had indoctrinated a behavior in me that I thought was normal, but it was not. So let's go around the mountain, shall we? That is why you will always hear me convey. We are not perfect people, but your life story is. So to define what that is, you must commit to yourself. Now, there is a disconnect because some people say, well, are you saying that I need to be self-centered? No, I'm saying that you are required to be focused on who matters most. Here's my point. If you're not taking care of you, you can't put the burden or responsibility on the people in your environment to give you what what you need, because that is found within yourself. That is why you see this a lot of times. Oh, I was invested with her. I turned every stone, and because I didn't get the outcome that I thought I deserved, I'm jumping over the fence and I'm just going to be about me. Just like you hear the proverbial saying, once a good girl goes bad, she's gone forever. Coined by Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame hip hop icon Jay-Z. But that's not true. Hold on for a second, family. Okay. So why am I conveying this message now? Because I have a feeling somebody is going to waste 10 years of their life on a decision that was not thought out. It was emotionally driven. And you're doing yourself a disservice if you proceed to entertain that thought. That's why you will always hear me say this. Sometimes the best thing you can do is get out of the way of them. Because the moment you decide to get out of their way, you will actually see the road that you should have been on all along. You see, not everybody will earn the right to walk with you, to know your story, to share your thoughts, to be in your presence. Operative, operative, operative word, presence. Do you not know? Do you not realize the greatest gift you could bestow on someone is to be in their presence? The ability to watch them grow. You can't put a price on that. It'll never be store bought. It can never be emulated or imitated. You got to bear with me. My soup coolers are not working like they should. They're a little parched. That is why a lot of times you will hear those that, unfortunately, will put more work to convince you not to do the work. Why? Because they already knew. They already identified your uniqueness the moment you said hello. Now I know some of you are saying, well, golly, Gerald, every time I see him, he looks like he looks at me like I'm a pork chop sandwich. He just want to gobble me up. Well, maybe, just maybe, when he's in the midst of you physically, he enjoys what he sees. But the kicker is, can he demonstrate through his behavior to match it? Why do you think you got so many people that have this mindset of, as long as I got money in my pocket to fool, she'll be on a stroll? Because economically, people always want what they don't have. Let that sink in. And for those same people, they will spend half their life making excuses why their reality is what it is. That's why you've got so many people on social media talking about get quick, get that lick quick. But when it comes to you, you'll never see that. And then on the flip side, you got this. I'm gonna use what I got to get what I want. And them same people that is conveying that narrative, I'm gonna use what I got to get what I want, are the same ones that are looking aged before their time. Because what happens is what is not authentic gets tested. And if it's not real, it will fall apart. Oh no, they got me in a trick bag. No, you stepped in it yourself. You chose. Why do you think the pimps use that terminology? She chose me. Because even though they don't represent a positive light, even they can all agree that it's about free will. But if that free will is not built off of truth, the result will always be deception. Who am I talking to? That's why there's no reward in running away from your life. I don't like where I'm at. I know there's a calling for me at, and I'm supposed to have this whirlwind. There's a price for that. I've been all over the world, family, for the most part. But I could say out of the eight uh, eighth with the eight wonders of the world, I done seen about six of them. And was it grand to stand in the midst of this creation done by man? Of course. But I can look back now and see the price. You can't be in two places at one time, fam. The greatest gift you can bestow on a person that have earned it is to share a vision together. Because what produces out of that is called a memory. I can't tell you how many times I wish that I saw things of significance and I said, you know what? If I had someone that loved me for me, I wish I could show them this one in a lifetime moment. Because you can't put a price tag on an initial moment of discovery. You can't. That's why, even with Shalimar, they made the song about a second time around. Yeah, there's some highs, but it's not like the first time of discovering. Now imagine the first time of discovering who you are. It is proverbially heaven sent. That is the first time that you will actually understand your emotions. You will also understand your strengths based off of your weaknesses. And lastly, understand your voice. And to do all those things, if you truly do all those things, guess what happens? You will identify your purpose. And I've always said that. You want to know the people that have your best interest? They show it by demonstrating it through the examples of how they carry their lives. And that will tell you how they value yours. Who am I talking to? And that is why today people they feel so influx when it comes to the term friend. It is easier to say, that's an associate. Well, what is an associate compared to a degree? Let that sink in. When it comes to you, they should have the same value that they have with themselves. So if they don't give a damn about how they moving, how you think they feel about you? I know I done pissed somebody off right now. You're getting to the point where you're tired of making excuses when you shouldn't have had to make the excuse to begin with. Who am I talking to? You've even gotten to a point where you're trying to dip in their emotional bag and say, well, if I think like them or move like them, that will bring them closer to me. When in actuality, all that will do is bring closer the disappointment, the hurt, the shame. Somebody needs to hear that. Because you've gotten to a point where you're saying, well, you know what? I understand where I'm at. And maybe my approach needed some work. But I'm not going to be combative. I am going to come from a sincere place. Who am I talking to? I know I got your attention because you've been pondering this for the last 5 days. And you think that if you strategize so it kind of mimics the behavior that they show you, you're going to get the outcome that you long for in reverse. No. It don't work that way. See, what's getting ready to happen, family, if you've truly gotten to that point, you're gonna start. You're gonna. I'm not saying that the. I'm not laughing at you. Proverbially, I'm thinking about myself and my experience, and which was one of the reasons that led me to YouTube, because I knew when I decided to take a viewpoint of introspection, I was ready to do the work. Who am I talking to? Even though your environment has said, nah, you ain't got to do that. Go ahead and get that credit card out, swipe it, and you can be a part of this forum over here, and you'll have like-minded folk. Some of your greatest breakthroughs are going to happen when you decide to be comfortable with yourself. Because what is going to happen? Listen up, Kings, I'm talking to you. You're on the verge of the person that you were born to be is going to be broken off from the person you shouldn't have been. And what's going to happen is your life is going to go through a major, major overhaul. Now, I'm going to guide you through this. This might be the moment that you become the most hypersensitive. This may be the time you may allow yourself to be vulnerable, and there's going to be a tidal wave of emotion. It's going to come from within out. It has to be released. You're going to find yourself doing a lot of this too, because indirectly you're searching for validation or understanding of yourself. Who am I talking to? You're not crazy. You're being prepared. And if you commit to this process, you know what else happens? All the things that you were unable, incapable to embrace, that door within your spiritual being, the real you is going to be, you're going to tap into your courage. You're going to tap into your inner peace. And as you're tapping into who you really are, you may find yourself writing things down. You may find yourself embracing certain behaviors that you thought were cynical. Like, oh, that's lame. I wouldn't do that. You're going to see yourself actually embracing the nature of who you really are through this process. Now, I would be wrong and I would be remiss to not say this. Because remember I said you're going to be hypersensitive. You're going to be allergic to bullshit. Because in the process of this, if you truly do this, you know what else happens? You embrace your discernment. Oh, somebody in trouble now. And King, let me tell you something. You may have heard this with our female counterpart that, you know, the inner knowing of a woman. A woman has the ability to know because her innate creation as woman, that's one of her spiritual gifts. But you can't bullshit yourself. Nor can you spark the innate ability to discern. Why? Because what's at stake is you. But I also understand that you're going to be tempted too. Because you're going to have things of your former self, former environment that may be present. Oh, it's going to test you. It's going to test you. I'm going to tell you why. Because I do understand that 1 in 3 people do not have a spiritual connection or a spiritual base within themselves. Because society has taught you to be numb. And the more numb you are, the more dumb you become. That's for somebody. Because you have convinced yourself, I can fake it till I make it, but it costs you tears. It costs you scars. It costs you emotional real estate. That's why the people that are over your shoulder are not in your life anymore. Don't mean they ain't looking. Don't mean they're not going to check on you because they hope that you backslide. Because if you backslide, you're more controllable, which only justifies their mindset of, see, I knew they'd come around. I just had to give them some time. They was on some crazy shit. Yeah, see, she back doing what she was doing before. Therefore, I win. Or, Kings, well, she said things were different, but what does her behavior say? So that's where that term character comes from. What role is she playing? And if she's playing a role, what is the underlying agenda? Who am I talking to? But see, society wants to convince the common person. Nah. You go to sleep, you're going to wake up, you're paid. Filthy rich, blah, blah, blah. Them same people, they fly by night. For every one, there are 5 people that are waiting to take that niche. Real recognizes real. And what is real is this. Until you decide to put something greater than yourself in front of your steps, the longer the road is. The end goal is you end up becoming the person of your dreams. So if the end goal is to become the person of your dreams, what's the price to become the person of your dreams? Who am I talking to? You should never have gotten to a point where you're saying, well, I'm willing to accept a piece of you. When in actuality, they should be able to give all of them because they're standing by your side. That's called a covenant. So when I hear people say, I'm just looking for the right partner, you always hear me say this. Stop looking for your king. Stop looking for your queen. Prepare for them. And there's no better preparation. See, okay, here you go. And I had this epiphany 10 years ago. I'm going to say eight. And for some of y'all that have been with me for a long time, you remember when I had my apartment and there was Tyson. Some of y'all remember my first bully, Tyson. He was all white. And we had a routine that, we had a certain pattern that I start my day, I would take him out. There was a certain area where my apartment was that he would go use the bathroom, right? And after he used the bathroom, I would feed him, and then I would leave out to start my day. And that was our pattern. Well, I remember one time in the fall. It was autumn, late autumn, early fall. Leaves had all died and turned golden brown. And the weather was normally, I'd say in the 40s. It was brisk. So there I am with Tyson. And we're outside the apartment and he's going down to his little area that he do his business. And I'm waiting for him. And I had this epiphany. And I heard this inner voice say, you cannot have a family if you have yet to master your dog. And I kind of did the, like, Ming, when I would, well, so I'm thinking about Ming's here. But with Tyson, if I would talk to him a certain way, and he would turn his head like he's really trying to understand my tone and get what I'm trying to convey. And he would do that. And so it's cold. I could see the frost off my breath. It's cold. I want to get inside. He's outside trying to decide where he's going to use his bathroom. And I'm thinking about what just fell into my spirit. And I was like, wow, that made a whole lot of sense as a man. How can you think you're entitled to have dominion over a family or have a family when you have yet to master your pet? You are the pet. Meaning, I cannot have the audacity to say, I am going to have a family when I have yet to master myself. Who am I talking to? And this video is going longer than I expected. I'm looking at it now. It's almost an hour. So I'm going to stop it right here. But I'm definitely going to put a part two. If you're feeling what I'm conveying, give me a thumbs up. If you know of somebody that needs to hear it, share it. The end goal, once again, is I got to get to 1,000 subscribers. Once I can remove that shackle, guess what? I go live. I can show you in real time the beauties and the beautiful. I really wish you were here. Just talking about it does it an injustice. But I really believe there's a major shift about to occur in my life. And I want you guys to get on it. Get in now, because when things happen, and they will, you know how it is. You know how it is with sports. It's like you don't want nobody is bandwagon because they're here for the wrong reason. But I'm gonna tell you what, major change is about to happen. Be blessed.